Ciao and welcome. Today I'm cooking a Sicilian traditional dish called Caponata, but it's going to be not the vegetarian version or even vegan version. This is going to be a meat eater's version, as I will be adapting the dish to include some chicken and some chorizo. This is a recipe which seems to have faded away over the years. I remember having it quite a lot when I was young, and my nonna, my grandmother, used to cook it a lot, but also my mum not so much sometimes, but also my aunts. But like a lot of things, they have trends, and I suppose this is no different. Over the years has faded away, so today I am making it with the hope that maybe you will try it. I will give you the list of ingredients and recipe in the description of the video, as always, but you already see me adding a few cloves of garlic to a pan with some olive oil, and I'm now slicing a couple of onions. Well, this is a little one left over, but I'm using a couple of white onions, but you can also use red onions if you like, or a large one. You will have also noticed that I didn't crush the garlic, I left it whole. If you look here, it's beginning to not sizzle. I've got 4 relatively large pieces and 3 smaller ones. So entirely up to you how much you put in. But as soon as it starts sizzling, I'll add the onions which I just chopped. So I'll turn the temperature down on to medium so that I do not burn the garlic, and in the meantime I'll prepare the eggplants and zucchini, something else which I'm adding to this recipe. Of course, to make a caponata you do need eggplants, by the way. That is one ingredient you cannot do without. And whenever I do make caponata, I always slice my eggplants in 1 centimeter pieces like this. I'll then go along and chop them further into 1 centimeter strips so that you end up with little soldiers like this. And my caponata today will consist of 2 eggplants weighing approximately 250 grams each. So you can replicate it to the letter, or use maybe one big one weighing half a kilo, or you can make a slightly less amount. I'm doing actually quite a big batch because I will be freezing some of it. This is a recipe which you can freeze and then defrost at a later date if you like. The onions and the garlic have been sizzling for a few minutes, and in order to get some space back on my chopping board before I cut my zucchini, I'll start adding my chopped eggplants. And I'm also adding a little salt. This serves two purposes: to give a little flavor, but also to get the water out of the eggplants so that they sweat nicely. And I start mixing everything together so that the eggplants absorb some of the oil, and do not be tempted to add any more oil, because eggplants, a bit like mushrooms, they're like sponges, so the more oil you add, the more they will absorb, and then they'll throw it back at you at the end. So like this is perfect. We will also put a cover in a minute anyhow, so they will sweat nicely. And I will be complementing my eggplant with a couple of zucchini. I'll remove the bum and the head. And likewise, as I did with the eggplants, I'll chop each zucchini in 4 pieces, long little strips, just like this. And I'll chop it further into similar size cubes. And they can join forces with the eggplants and the rest of the ingredients. I'll give everything a good mix once again, so that the zucchini are also incorporating some of the flavor. And as I said before, I'll place the lid on and I'll leave them to sweat gently on a low heat for about 10 minutes. Which is perfect, as it will give me time to prepare some of the other ingredients and show you what I do. And I'll start with the Agrodolce, which is like a vinaigrette. Agrodolce stands for sweet sour, or maybe sour sweet, one or the other, I never remember, but it's a mixture of white wine vinegar, and here to give you an idea, it's just a tiny little amount, about most probably I would say less than 50 milliliters. And I will be adding also one heaped the teaspoon of sugar, if I can get hold of it, here, like so. And this is what makes caponata very flavorful, the combination of sugar and the bitterness from the vinegar. But I'm going to mix it first, and the sugar will be absorbed by the vinegar, and I'll put this on one side for later. I do not need it yet. As I said, I'm getting some ingredients ready. By the way, I always think it's interesting to think about where words come from. As an example, have you ever thought what caponata means or where it comes from? Actually, it's one of those words which has got a very mysterious origin, and some believe that it goes back to when Spain used to rule Sicily, as they did for several centuries. And the word was caponata with a D-A at the end instead of a T-A. The people will trace it to the word caupona, which stands for tavern or a simple inn, where very, very humble meals were served to travelers or to sailors. And I like that this was a dish born from everyday places where people used whatever they had in the kitchen in terms of vegetables, and it was carried forward over time. I think there's something beautiful about that. I often think about the origin of words, just little things that make me think. Think, for example, about my name, Francesco, and that comes from Franciscus, which means little Frenchman, which ironically is actually what San Francesco d'Assisi, the famous Italian saint, was named after. His name actually wasn't Francesco, his name was Giovanni, believe it or not, but his father had lots of business dealings with the French, and he loved the idea of the little Frenchman nickname, and that's what he decided to call his son as a nickname, Francesco. In the meantime, while I'm rambling on about words, I've chopped some celery and also 300 grams of plum tomatoes. But let me tell you a little bit more about Francesco and the origin of the word. It actually goes back even further than San Francesco d'Assisi. The word is also linked to a tribe called Frank, and that name got eventually associated with freedom, and that is actually why in the English dictionary the word frank is often used to describe open honesty and also frankness. So there you go, something you hopefully learned today. And wanting to be frank, actually, I do like the idea that my name is associated to San Francesco d'Assisi. I built this image in my head of this very graceful gentleman in his mid-50s maybe, and there he is, he's sitting on the grass, maybe next to a big oak tree. It's a beautiful day, and there it is with nature, and birds are singing, most probably he's feeding them, and he's not doing anything grand, but he's most probably the happiest man in the world because he's at peace and he's there enjoying life. And sometimes little things like that actually paint a little picture in my head, and like the word caponata, I mentioned earlier that the meaning could be related to a tavern or a small inn. So the immediate picture that I paint is this group of people eating a very humble meal, but also playing cards and drinking wine around a very old table in this little tavern. It's just because they're fishermen as well, they all got a pipe. It's incredible how the brain converts something you're reading into an image. And I was wondering if you have anything similar yourself you'd like to share. If you do, just put it in the comment. It would be interesting to see if you share any of those similar sort of stuff that goes through my head. I'm sure you do. But back to the recipe now, and I've got some parsley here and also some fresh basil, which Julia's just picked from the garden. And also these are salted capers, and I'm gonna be using a couple of teaspoons, but these are salted. So what I'll do, I'll put them inside this little dish first, and then I will rinse them with some fresh water. I said I wouldn't, but I've been talking to you about the ingredients, so I might just as well complete the list. I will also be using a few olives. These are pine nuts over here, and I will be complementing the chopped tomatoes with some tomato puree. And of course here I've got my chorizo and a chicken. This is a whole chicken which I've just chopped into little pieces, and I've got a video which has got a recipe. I don't remember what it is. It's a chicken recipe, but it starts with me showing you how to chop a chicken into little quarters very, very simply. I'll find the video and I'll post it up here, and then you can see what I've done. In the meantime, my eggplant and zucchini are partly cooked, and if you look, they've shrunk in size considerably. So the first thing I'll do though is to move them over this dish, as I'm going to be using the same saucepan to cook the meat. And see this brown stuff here left from the eggplants is absolutely beautiful. Do not get rid of it. But I'm going to add a little bit more olive oil first, followed by all of my chicken. By the way, I've also retained the backbone. I will leave it there as it will add flavour, but I will remove it at the end. And I'll make sure that it's properly distributed across the surface of my saucepan so that it starts browning on all sides. And here is my chorizo salami. I will not be using a lot as it can be a little bit overpowering, but I think that chorizo combined with chicken is an absolute perfect combination. However, do not necessarily go out and buy chorizo for this recipe. You can also do without, but if you got pancetta or bacon, you can substitute it with one of those. And if you look, I'm not used a lot, but the little that I'm using, I'll chop into tiny little pieces, about half a centimeter cubes. And I'm going to add it to the chicken while it's browning. But of course remember to mix it in so that it starts releasing that lovely flavour and colour. And it's quite remarkable, the flavour coming up already from the chorizo. The combination is really absolutely perfect. So I'll turn the chicken round so that, as I said, it's browned on all sides, and I'll show you what to do next. And there you go, I'll start with some tomato puree. I'm going to be putting in 1 tablespoon, followed by the capers, which I've just washed. A very generous handful of parsley, which I've just chopped. As I mentioned before, these are pine nuts, but I'm not gonna go mad. I'll put the equivalent of a couple of teaspoons like this. You can also replace pine nuts with sunflower seeds because they can be quite expensive. And before I go ahead and add the rest of the vegetables, I'll add my agrodolce or sour sweet vinaigrette. And I'll mix everything together, and I will leave those to marinate and infuse for about a couple of minutes before I add anything else. And you will know you're on the right track because everything will smell absolutely wonderful. The combination of the vinegar with the sugar and everything else is actually releasing such an amazing flavor. So this is a good time now to add the rest of the ingredients. So aubergine, zucchini, and here are my fresh tomatoes and celery. And ensure that you go in with your spatula and mix everything together just like this. And I'm going to be placing the lid on, and I'll turn it down onto medium, and I'll leave it to now cook for a good 35 to 40 minutes until the chicken is pretty much cooked. This is almost an all-in-one dish as it is, and you can eat as it is. You do not have to pair it with anything at all because you got lovely vegetables and chicken and so on. But I would recommend that you pair it with some beautiful rustic bread, and that is what we're going to be doing tonight. Or alternatively, you can cook some plain rice, and then you can add it to the sauce because it will marry lovely. Or another option is that you do some roasties in the oven or an air fryer if you got one, and have those on the side. As I said, endless choices. You can also do some broad beans, anything you like, but on its own is also beautiful. And this it's best to eat it when it's warm, by the way. Caponata, you can eat it better, actually, it tastes better when it's cold out of the fridge. But this one, you can put it in the fridge, and of course you can also eat it cold, but it will taste better when it's warm. Also, I've got a little favor to ask you, as my channel is growing, but at a considerably slower pace than what I was hoping. And I have realized what is going on actually, and having looked at the analytics, I have discovered that my videos get promoted on the back of other unrelated to food videos. So for example, you watching a video and then the next video coming up might be a food video. In my case, a lot of the video promoting my channel are related to food. So there is an awful lot of Russian politics related content promoting my video. I do not know why, but that's what's happening. And equally well, also an awful lot about Donald Trump and what is going on in the world with Donald Trump, and on the back of those videos, my videos are being promoted. And clearly people might or might not be interested in food if they're watching Russian or American politics, but ideally the best scenario is that my videos are promoted on the back of food videos. So there is something you can do to help me there, if you don't mind, and that is by liking my videos, but also by, assuming you do of course, but also by sharing them. So if you've got friends or family who like cooking, especially Italian and Sicilian food, and you were to share my videos, then the algorithm, which is the computer inside YouTube, will learn that mine are food cooking videos more and more, and then they will promote my videos on the back of food related content. So a little favor to ask you, if you don't mind doing that consistently, that would really help, and that apparently is the fix. I do not know why that is happening, but it seems to be happening for 80% of the proposed videos. Thank you for your help, I really appreciate it. And after 35 minutes, I'm now ready to finish my recipe. So these are my olives, and I've also got some basil here. So let's take a look at the chicken. And by the way, 35 minutes because I did chop it in little pieces. But if you were to use larger pieces of chicken, obviously a little bit longer. But you will know because the chicken will be cooked, of course, and there will not be any pink juices coming out. You can see that this is pretty much ready. But I'll turn it down a little bit more now, and as I mentioned, olives, I will be adding a few olives next. As always with these things, it's always subjective, quantities to taste, but I'm going to be putting a good 20 to 25 olives in. And these are olives which I keep in olive oil, by the way, so they are well marinated. And while still going, I'll turn it off, and the last ingredient, actually the penultimate ingredient, is going to be my basil, and this is fresh, of course, and it will release a beautiful flavor. And I'm nearly there. All I need is one last dribble of olive oil, which I'll put in now. And I'll place the lid on, and I will remove it from the heat altogether, and I will place it on my worktop for about 5 minutes. And during this time, the oil and the olives and the basil will do their magic, and then we can try some and see what it's like. And I think the moment has arrived to see what it's like. I've got myself a little bread. Actually, this has got some cheese inside, even better. And I'll try some of the juice first, and I'm very keen to see, oops, what is this like? Oh god. Oh, it's an explosion of flavor. The chorizo combined with the chicken, they've obviously released some juices, and it's absolutely beautiful. But also I'll try some chicken, and if you look, it's really well cooked. So it's actually 35 minutes was perfect. And I'll try this, and then I'll go. Oh god, it's so wonderful, so delicious. It's a shame that actually it's not one of those recipes which is, sorry, most probably I've got dirty chops, widely cooked anymore, but I don't know why, because it's so delicious. You should try, and I hope you do, because definitely worthwhile cooking. And I think I would most probably go and sit next to San Francesco and eat it. Calmly. Arrivederci. I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully you've enjoyed this recipe, and if you make it, let me know in the comments, and don't forget to share and like my videos. It will definitely help me. Buon appetito, and see you next time. Ciao ciao.